Hello there, this is Rom. Wait, let me get all this straightened out. Coming back at you with yet another car video. It's a little cold out this Billy. Yeah, hold on. Let me turn this joint on. Yeah. The game really hasn't changed in decades. Because, one of the things, I always get a detractor say, oh, you don't know what's going on. Oh, you don't know what's going on. Motherfucker, if you're talking about game, if you're talking about man gets woman, only thing that's changed is the technology. That's the only thing that's changed. And I know people be trying to watch where I'm coming from and everything. Don't worry about it. Ain't your concern. Anyway, right? Like I said, I got life outside of this. But I'm going to tell you what, the game itself really hasn't changed. The only thing that's changed is technology and what people know. But I was really thinking about that. One, because, like I said, sometimes I get some people say, oh, you don't know what's going on, you're old or something. Hold up. First of all, shit that's happening now happened back when I was back in the 70s, when I wasn't even a teenager yet. The only difference is you can see what's happening now. That's the only difference. You got the different technology and stuff, and even with the technology, it's still the same thing, right? Because, okay, let's think about online dating. Everybody talking about that, right? Which they still had like classified ads and everything back in the day. They still had it. Only difference now is they got pictures. Now, even with the pictures and everything, it still come down to the first pillar. Well, a pillar of game. I ain't gonna say it's the first. It depends how you look at it. But a pillar of game, appearance. They still got like what you look like. And back then, you had the pictures and all of that, but they still had to like what you look like. That was still the main thing. So you still had to have that pillar. You still had to look good. And even when you talking about like swiping right or all that stuff, you still had to look good. When you approach a woman, you still gotta look good. She determining in less than 3 seconds how far she gonna take it, how you look and everything. And even with you got some guys thinking, well, it was about looks. It was about looks then too. It was about looks then. Because I remember shooting in the 70s, you used to have to be dressed fly, have those bushes and everything. In fact, even that looks thing. Because I've talked about a couple times where they were talking about looks back in the day. And, being handsome or something. In fact, I will share links to some articles from Ebony magazine talking about that. And all you have to do is look at the date on them. They've been talking about that. Or a good-looking guy or something like that. Ain't nothing new about that shit. Ain't nothing new about that. Right? So you still had to look fly. You still had to look a certain way. Had to have your hair done. Had to have the barber bless you. Back then, you might have had to have a bush. And, the only thing that would have changed maybe a style or something, but it's still the same principle. It's still the same principle. You still had to look a certain way to appeal to the woman. I don't even want to know what that was. Anyway, you still had to look a certain way to appeal to the woman. That hasn't changed. And then, talking with some elders. We going back, I remember talking with my grandmother. And she was talking about how fly, men had to look to her and her crew, her sisters and her crew, back in the 30s. And I've seen some pictures of them. Even my great grandfather, back in her 20s and something. I remember my co-parent, she saw a picture of him, she's like, whoop. You know, that hasn't changed. Like, a big part of the game is your appearance, you know? And still, like, even like I said, women look at everything. That hasn't changed. In the 70s, it's just when I remembered it. When I remembered it, you know, because I was born in the 60s. Now, I remember when I was conscious of it. But even going beyond that, you still had to look a certain way to get a particular woman's attention, depending on what they like and everything. That hasn't changed. Well, it's just more open now. Yeah, only thing that's changed, you can say changed, is you got a bigger range now. But it's still the same principle. So you got to look at the principle. And then, even when you, like, get past that principle, even when you get past that looks aspect, okay, you look good. You still had to talk to him. You still had to have that conversation. You know? You still got to talk to him. Even today when you talking about, oh, it's online. Okay, but at some point, I don't give a fuck who it is, who you talking to, whatever, you still got to talk to him. You got to talk to him no matter what, because you got a lot of guys talking about, well, it's online, swiping and all of that, and so busy worried or concerned about that first part, they ain't talking about the second part, you know, which is you gotta still look good to him. And when that look good to him, you still gotta talk to him regardless. Those are two of the main pillars of it. You know? Still the two main pillars. The other pillars are the environment you in. And that's expanded, but it's still environment. And then sex. That hasn't changed. Like the sex part, hold up, let me get into that real quick. What's changed? It's still penis goes in vagina. That hasn't changed in ever, really, ever. That's going back. That's a universal thing. Now, different cultures will have something, but talking about this culture we're in, the U.S. culture, is still the same thing. Now, people be trying to add all this other stuff. It's like, no, the woman still gotta, she gotta like what you look like to even open the door. Then you still gotta be able to have a good conversation to close the door. You know? You know? To, like, make it happen. To make the sale. That's the best way of putting it. It's like you go into a car place to buy a car. You know? You go into a car place to buy a car, but it looks good on the outside, but you still want to test drive it, and the salesman still has to sell you on the car. That's all the conversation is. That's game right there. And it hasn't changed. It hasn't changed. You know, I think about something, my youngest son, I remember, I never forget, me and him had a conversation. He was asking about women, talking to women and all of that. I gave him some game for a couple minutes just in the car. Not even long, just a couple minutes. I said, you gotta talk to me. Whenever we out now, if we out together now for whatever reason, I say hi to some woman. It could be whoever. He'll be like, hey, how you doing? He's saying hi to her too, no matter what her age is. He got the point. He got the lesson. And like I said, when he went to his prom, he had multiple women dancing with him. Multiple women dancing with him. I even seen some pictures. I was like, damn. He had receipts. Dude, it was the same thing. And even then, it was like, you know, like, okay, like when he went to his prom. Now, he was 18 at the time. He was 18 at the time. So, you know, so he was young. He was still a teenager. he was using the exact same game that I was using when I was 18. He was actually better at it though. But it's the exact same thing. See, too many dudes want to think something different or like think it's some great thing. It was like, well, I would say this. How many elders have you had a real conversation with? How many players have you had a conversation with? Like a real conversation. Not a conversation with mom, because mom don't want to tell you like she used to back that thing up. She don't want to tell you like she cheated on your dad. Or even that the guy that you calling your dad might not be your dad. Oh yeah, it's that deep. It's that deep. Because even like something like paternity fraud. Only difference back now is they can test it. Back then they would have, you talk to any elder, they'd say they had a relatives of, like a man have a child, his relatives would come through and like seriously come through and look at that child. And they'd be looking at him and making comparisons. That's how, because they knew it was up. And even now, there's some people in their 40s and 50s finding out their father really wasn't their father. You know? And then when you talk about like women cheating and everything, they still been doing it. Like I said, the biggest thing you have now, it's harder for a woman to hide anything she's doing. But the game hasn't changed. It come down who she like, who looking good, and who can spit that hot fire to her. Game. Who she can talk to and all of that. That's it. There hasn't been no change. You know? In fact, more dudes need to talk to. In fact, you got a lot of younger dudes now, they having trouble with women and all of that, right? They having trouble and all of that. I was like, well, talk to an elder. Find a player. Find an old school player and talk to them. Shoot, because that's why you got some dudes, they in their 70s now, macking. I remember this one dude, a shade tree mechanic, may he rest in peace. I remember that dude was in his 60s when he worked on this car. He was a friend of a friend. This dude, 65, had a 5-year-old son. He had a 5-year-old son. And the mother was 35. In fact, that's why, I'm going to be real with y'all. That's why some old dudes be getting some play. They just know how to talk to some women. Because really, if you really talk, that's a major issue out here. A lot of young guys don't know how to talk to a woman. They being all scared and all of this. That's within you. That's within you. But you still got to communicate. I don't care. You can talk about online, all that. At some points, you got to communicate with them. You know, you still got to talk to them. And a lot of young women, they've told me straight up. They say these guys act like they're afraid to talk to you. They don't want to say anything. You know? Don't want to shoot that hot fire. You don't even, I'm going to tell you what, you don't even need to have any, like, smooth words or anything. Just having a conversation with a lot of these women. But it hasn't changed. It hasn't changed. When I think about when I was younger, like I'm saying, I'm thinking about when I was younger. I haven't noticed a difference. I seriously haven't noticed a difference. I don't care what anybody try to say out here. You still got to do the basics. You still got to talk to that woman, and she still need to like how you look. Like I said, I like even like some people talking that like looks thing. That ain't no new thing. That's never been new. Like I said, I'll put links to these articles from Ebony magazine. That's always been the case. Shit, like I said, that was the first game I learned was fixing up. I remember I was 7 years old and stuff. I remember my uncle picked me up. May he rest in peace. My uncle had picked me up to go to church. My hair wasn't combed. He jumped on me. I never forget that. He jumped on me. He was like, "Do you have a girlfriend?" And I'm thinking to myself, I said no, but I'm thinking to myself, I'm 7. He was like, shit, she should break up from you. Hair ain't fixed. It's like, God damn. I did curse a lot when I was little. But anyway, that's how you gotta look at it. That's how you gotta look at that thing. There ain't no change. So, when somebody older telling you something, instead of just trying to argue with them or say, nah, that's not it, talk to them. Hit them up and everything. It's not a joke. Hit them up. Find out what's going on. Because it's still the same principles. The technology can change. It might change. Probably change again in 20 years. It changes as we speak. But women still gotta like how you look. She still gotta be good with how you look. She gotta be good with that. She gotta be good with how you look, and you still gotta talk to them no matter what. You can't get past that. You still gotta have that conversation. And just a regular conversation. And even that, you can get a woman hot. You don't even have to bring up sex. You don't even have to bring up sex, and you can get with the woman. Remember one woman I was having sex with for about we would get together for about 4 years and stuff. I never forget the first time we got together. I ain't mentioned sex one time. Didn't make anything sexual. All I said to her, we were out there at this place, and I never forget it. I said, okay, yeah, come back to my place. And I remember, because we were out at this place. She paid too. She paid. That's another conversation. And I remember, I never forget it. I said, why don't you come home with me? And she had some coffee or something. She sipped it and called for the check. I never forget it. I never forget that move. Didn't bring up sex one time. And you gotta, but what was it? It was just a conversation. Well, she was already physically attracted to me. And then it was a conversation. And that's it. And that hasn't changed. It probably, if it does change, it'll be several thousand years from now. Because a woman, if she's going to be sexually turned on by you, she got to like what she see. And not just your face either, but she got to like your whole presence. And then she still got to communicate with you. That hasn't changed. So, what I tell you as far as those things, use them. They're going to work. They're going to work. Because if you don't want it to work, well, kids are going to, young people going to listen like my sons, 22 and 20. They're going to get theirs. And you're going to be sad just going around trying to go to different people trying to do stuff. But it really just comes down to those two things, right? So anyway, it was quick today, so you know how it is. Anyway, I'll get back with y'all. Peace and blessings.